say, well, you look at this and you say, well, what's this structure? Hopefully you know what that is. So the liver gives you your orientation. That's the first thing I want you to be able to do, is sort of know just what kind of observation viewpoint you're making here. And then you got right lobe, left lobe, peeking out from underneath the right lobe, gallbladder right there, and then upper left, got the edge of the spleen. Tells me you know it's the upper left quadrant when you can identify the spleen. And then sandwiched in between, you've got the stomach. Now this is, you're more in the prone position as far as lying down, when it goes sort of underneath the left lobe of the liver. It doesn't tend to show as well. And then hanging off the stomach, you have this fatty tissue layer, sort of draped over everything. There's the greater omentum. Also, you could just see lining the wall, that white line here or over here, even the entire flap covered by it, sort of cloudy because it's drying out. Normally it's perfectly clear. That's the parietal peritoneum. You would have to put parietal, right? Well, if you didn't, you might get 1 point anyway for peritoneum. But you know there are 2 types. That's the one lining the wall. So that's all that would really be testable on that presentation. And then here you've got some dissected specimen presentation here, where you've got esophagus, your muscular tube coming down, and into the side of the pouch, stomach. You can observe that the spleen is attached to the left side of the stomach. And then coming out on the right-hand side, this muscular tube, small intestine, specifically the duodenum, and tucked into that curvature, turning to the left, you now have this glandular tissue, pancreas, going all the way from duodenum out to the spleen, what we describe as a transpyloric pancreas, meaning it runs horizontally. And then you pick up the tube back here, about here to the duodenum, and then what's left here is the second part, jejunum. And then it's been cut off, so most of it's gone. And then supporting it is this tissue attached to the inside curvature, mesentery. Usually yellowish, a lot of fat stored in the mesentery. So that's everything that you would be asked about for that. Dissect things so that you can get to the interior. So now I've got the interior of the esophagus. You can then name the part where it connects to the stomach. You can say specifically that's the cardia, right there. Creates a bubble off to the left. 2 is in the fundus, or in fundic stomach. And then the bulk of it here is the body. You then start to narrow down at the lower end, what I would describe as the top of the funnel, right there. There would be the antrum, or the antral stomach, right there. And then it continues to narrow down as the pyloric stomach, lower end. And then you hit this constriction right there. It sort of narrows tight together. That's where you would find the pyloric sphincter. Definite muscular ring down at the lower end. And then off you go into that open tube as the duodenum, where you should then note on that inside curvature there are three eponymically described structures. So you have this inside the pancreas, dissected for. What's the eponymic name for that structure? Duct of Wirsung, right there. It's then joined by this bile-containing duct coming from above, this way. CBD, common bile duct. The widened area that it creates, ampulla of Vater, with a T. So there's Vater. And then the flow is controlled by a muscular ring in the wall. Let's say it's muscular right there. Eponymic name. There's the sphincter of Oddi. Right in there. So Wirsung, Vater, Oddi. Gotta know those. All right. That's everything. Well, the folds inside your stomach, collectively known as rugae. Right? Now here I might ask, as part of the exam, as your stomach fills up, the rugae disappear. True or false? True. Rugae are expected to flatten out as the stomach fills up or distends. Little knowledge questions every now and then, particularly when I want you to distinguish these from plicae. You should know there's a distinctive difference between rugae and plicae. And a favorite specimen when you pull everything out, real good look at right lobe of the liver. And I might just ask you this to get the right side of it. As far as you can tell me that's the right. This would be the left. And then the tissue that comes forward from in between those lobes, helping to support the liver. Falciform ligament attaching to the linea alba, and actually fusing in with the anterior abdominal wall. Also aware that the liver is also supported by the diaphragm, which is right here. And I'm not going to ask you anything about that. Coronary ligaments that you don't really see very well. But it just sort of illustrates how large that organ is, that it needs so much support, diaphragm and falciform ligament. And then over here on the left, once again, the spleen. Another caution for next week, if you use one word for an answer, It's totally in play for other answers. So I've had the same word for 3 answers on a lab exam. Say like duodenum. Use it both for, say, gross anatomy and then something in histology. So don't throw the word out if you've used it once. That's a death knell as far as other answers that would involve that same term. But all answers, all words are in play at all times. And then you have this nice J-shaped pouch. The stomach, better seen when you sort of hold everything up. And then you can see the supporting tissue right in there. Goes up underneath your liver, lesser omentum, and then you should, for next week, know 2 named parts. Hepatogastric, and it does go all the way out over here as hepatoduodenal. Know of the 2 named parts of the lesser omentum. Those, though, are no ID. So you're just IDing the lesser omentum. Here, gallbladder peeking out, right, from underneath the right lobe, just the end of it there. And then hanging off the greater curvature of the stomach. All of this, greater omentum, fatty tissue apron that hangs over the viscera. So that's all I would intend to ask you about for that slide. All right. And then some intestinal anatomy. Would tell you that this is the cut-off end from the pyloric end of the stomach. As it would normally be up here, fell down to this point. So you see this muscular tube with that curvature to it. You say, well, specifically what part of a small intestine would that be? That's the first part. So you've got duodenum. And then you're over here on the left-hand side, all coiled up. Jejunum. And then drop down the left, go back to the right. All of this. Ileum. So I particularly like to